Hello, I'm Natasha Gutierrez. Welcome to Rappler. In September, the House of Representatives approved a bill seeking to increase the tax exemption ceiling for bonuses and 13th month pay from 30,000 pesos to 70,000 pesos. The bill awaits action by the Senate. Will tax exemptions hurt or benefit Filipinos? Internal Revenue Commissioner Kim Menares has misgivings, saying new tax exemptions would hurt the economy, while Congressman Miro Kimbo says raising tax exemption caps would increase employee purchasing power. Joining us today is Congressman Kimbo, who's also the House of Representatives Ways and Means Chair, to discuss his position further. Hello, Congressman.
Hello. Hi.
Welcome to Rappler. Thanks for joining
Thank
us.
you. Thanks for having me.
Okay, why don't we start from the very beginning? What triggered this idea or this push for this bill at this particular moment in time?
Well, the Congress today, particularly under the leadership of Speaker Belmonte, has really been going through the tax code. It's a staged process of overhauling it. The first stage really is on the bonuses. Our bonuses are capped today at 30,000, meaning any Christmas bonus, 13-month pay, whatever you call it, any money that you receive from your employee in excess of your wages is a bonus. And anything in excess of 30,000 is taxed.
Okay.
Now that ceiling has been there since 1994. It's been 20 years. The law says that it should be revised from time to time,
Okay.
but there's been no specific review. And we've passed it already, not just on first, second, but on third reading. Really in our attempt to bring to life the original intention when the exemption was hatched in 1994, meaning 30,000 in 1994 is roughly around 80,000 today. So we want to adjust it to inflation so that we could meet the objectives of the law, which is what? Essentially two things, that 13th month pay or bonuses are given as a means to provide goodwill to the family. There are extraordinary expenses come Christmas time or come December, whether it's Noche Buena, whether it's gift giving. There's stuff that you buy or you purchase which you normally don't for the rest of the year. And there's a reason for that. The reason for that is it's really family celebration. It uplifts the spirit of the Filipino family. And then secondly, it puts more cash in the hands of the ordinary consumer. You cannot find if you want inclusive growth, you cannot find a better way to do that than to actually put back in the hands of the population cash.
Okay. You mentioned Christmas season being one of the major times where Filipinos spend money. A lot of the questions you've been getting on social media is, when is the goal for this implementation? I know earlier you said 2015. A lot of people, obviously, with the Christmas season coming forward, want to know exactly when is the soonest this could be implemented.
It's not happening this year, primarily because the revenue targets as well as the fiscal program of government is really based on a revenue stream, meaning we cannot disrupt the current revenue stream based on existing taxes. So it will be effective next year if the Senate approves it before the end of this year. But for government employees, 13th-month pay is actually given on a staggered basis. It's given June so that it can pay for educational expenses or enrollment, and then half of that is given come December. So we expect that by June of this year, it's going to be effective.
June
of next year. Of next year.
And what is the status in the Senate?
They're going through they're going through committee level discussion now.
Okay.
In fact, I think they've had 2 hearings already. They should be about to come up with a committee report on this. So we expect them to be able to pass this. And I'm pretty confident. The reason the confidence comes from the fact that this is a bipartisan as well as intra-house priority, meaning we've sat down with the Senate President, the Speaker of the House, and the Senate President. We've sat down on this particular subject matter, that it's something that we will pass. So categorically, I think that we expect this is a matter of time.
So you're saying there is no resistance in either of the houses?
I have yet to see one. Politicians are politicians. Unless something as popular as this, I don't think anybody will oppose it. But I mean, levity aside, I think people recognize that being on the ground, we see the significance it has on ordinary employees. We're not talking about, there's a mention that the people who will benefit are actually the elite, which is actually not true. Because if you look at the entire income profile of those, remember, the only ones who will benefit from this new measure are those who are receiving a bonus of more than 30,000, but
Right.
not more than 70.
Okay.
If you get more than 70, that portion is going to be included as part of your taxable income for the year. So who are these people who are earning more than 30,000 but not more than 70? The vast number of them actually are in between 30,000 and up to 45,000. So these are ordinary folks, and we're talking about teachers. We're talking about level 4 teachers. We're talking about middle level government employees. We're talking about salary grade 14, 15 employees, really regular folks whose wages or whose bonuses have been decimated by taxes.
Okay. Related to that, actually, we have several questions on social media just because we're talking about it. From @Sid Caleb, mga sinong mamamayan ba ang kasama sa tax exemption? So you talked about that specific spectrum, but then another question has come up. Are farmers exempt from income and other taxes?
Well, first question is, sino makikinabang? Ang makikinabang dito, base sa nakita namin, are sa government employees noong 1994, when the law was passed raising it to 30,000, practically those up to salary grade 19 and 20 had absolutely tax-free bonuses.
Okay.
But as of today, around only those salary grade 11 and 12 are exempted. So you're looking at that gap. Those between salary grade 12 to 19 in government are being taxed today. Their bonuses are being taxed. They're now going to be exempt in terms of taxes for their bonuses. In the private sector, it's the same.
Okay.
So we are looking at around 468,000 employees.
Okay, so a wider range of employees, middle class.
Lower middle class and middle class.
Okay.
It's not well, yes. Individuals who are doing the daily grind. But in fact, this income profile or this tax profile practically consists of the bulk of our taxpayers.
Okay.
Meaning, if you actually stratify them, then put them in the scheme or in a chart of where the most number of taxpayers are coming from, it's coming from this sector.
It's that bulk. Okay.
So farmers, it depends. If they make lower, nobody's exempted from taxes. Meaning everybody has to pay taxes. But minimum wage earners are exempted. If farmers earn a particular amount which is less than the amount that should be taxed, they're also going to be exempt. But I mean, obviously, this is something that will really affect more or benefit more of those in the urban areas.
Okay. We talked earlier about how it's a popular bill, but obviously we've heard misgivings from the Bureau of Internal Revenue.
What's new?
Can you talk to us about this? It would hurt the economy, they say, if you increase tax exemptions without any other ways to compensate or by increasing other taxes. Why are these unfounded, do you think?
Well, you have to understand where the BIR is coming from. The role of the BIR is to look for funds so that we can fund our programs. And they anticipate that this will somehow decimate or lessen the revenue take of government. I entirely disagree. There's going to be a reduction. We take the principle that in any law or bill that we pass in Congress, we have to be revenue neutral, meaning we have to try to pass bills that will not in any way affect the bottom line of government in a significant way. Now, based on all our computations, the most it will affect is that there'll be a reduction of 1.8 billion from the total 238 billion that we collect from individuals.
So from 238 goes down to 1.8.
1.8 billion will be the reduction
Will be
from
the reduction.
238.
Okay.
So roughly, it will probably go down to like 236 billion. So quite insignificant when you look at it. It's less than 1% of the total taxes that we collect. Secondly, is that what's significant here is that when you put the money, Natasha, in the hands of the ordinary consumer, because of the income profile, 96% of them will spend it.
We'll spend the money.
And of the 96% who will spend it, they will spend it on items that are vatable to the extent of 78%. Meaning, you put it in their hands, they're going to spend it on something which anyway is going to be subject to VAT. So that's government is able to recoup somehow from the spending.
Okay.
Secondly, if you put it in deposits, there's a final tax on deposits, which is also a final tax, which BIR gets. If you put it in the stock market, there's also taxes there. Certainly, the taxes will be smaller because instead of the entire amount going to government as taxes,
Right.
you're giving it to the consumer, but you're going to be able to recover in terms of incidental taxes as well as transaction taxes. But more importantly, you put the power back in the hands of. There's an economic upliftment that it's an economic theory that it brings about economic activity which engenders more businesses. Even the corporation from which you buy more noodles.
Okay.
From it, the company that produces noodles will be able to have higher corporate income. They'll pay also income taxes. So whichever way you look at it, the amount is insignificant, but the effect is quite substantial on the ordinary consumer.
Are there any studies in terms of how much it could possibly increase tax generation if it is spent by consumers?
Well, they say that the recovery in terms of actual recovery from incidental taxes is roughly around 23%.
Okay.
Meaning if government gives up a peso, government is eventually able to collect 23 centavos in terms of actual taxes.
Okay.
But I think the more significant thing here is we need to be able to empower the taxpayer. They're the most tax burden in the entire ASEAN. We have the highest tax rate. So this is really one step to do it. Besides, the very philosophy that when we passed it in 1994, whereby if we want to bring to life the philosophy that bonuses are called bonuses, meaning they're not supposed to be taxed.
They should be, right.
They should be given to you in whole. You don't go, hindi pagdating ng Pasko, sabihin mo sa anak mo, anak, bawas tayo dyan, di ba?
Yeah.
Hindi nga eh. That's the entire philosophy of it, is because it really promotes spiritual upliftment, family bonding, and at the same time, it uplifts the spirit of the worker, so that
Okay.
when he goes to work, he's able to work better. He likes his environment; it's more productive.
Knowing he can bring home more.
Knowing that he's able to bring home more or bring it as a whole as originally conceived.
Okay. You mentioned 96% will spend it.
Yes.
How are we sure they won't save it?
Well, if they save it, that's good for the economy too. But this is all based on studies.
Okay.
Meaning, for the most part, Natasha, many of these individuals who actually are going to benefit from this are not the multimillionaires.
Right.
Meaning, these are the guys people who actually don't have postpaid lines. They're just gonna buy more load, or they're gonna. If you're looking at the upper strand of it, they're gonna take out their families more on come Christmas. They're gonna probably pay some debts that have been lying around.
Okay.
So the likelihood of them saving it is quite small, because the beneficiary profile is not such that the savings mobilization attitude or ability is pretty high.
Okay. So we've heard your views on opposing the BIR's view on this. Do we have any other suggestions in terms of revenue sources as aside from instead of opposing tax exemption?
I think what's important first is to say that the BIR is actually opposing it on the standpoint that they say that the government is going to lose between 43 to 70 billion. That's really a disappointing statement. It's disappointing first because the range is just too big. Meaning, when you're facing an opponent or you're facing a fiscal manager, and they say that the potential loss is from 43 to 70 billion, it gives you the impression that they don't study.
Where do you get those numbers?
Why is the range so high? It's so wide, meaning it's a 60% range. So, but secondly, is that it's just impossible to reach that amount. Why? Because you're looking at 238 billion in terms of total tax take from individuals. That's the universe. What they're saying is that if it's 70 billion, they're telling us that a third of that, because they say 70 billion is the potential revenue loss, they're telling us that 1/3 of total tax take of government comes from 13th month pay. Come on. How ridiculous is that? Most of the taxes come from your regular 12 months.
Okay.
You cannot say that 1/3 of the tax take comes from the bonuses that you receive. It's as if you're saying that a person actually receives the amount of bonuses a person receives is actually 1/3 of what he actually makes in a year, that's ridiculous. Secondly, is that the number of beneficiaries here, or who will benefit from it, is roughly around 460,000. Let's say 500,000 individuals. Even if these guys make 70,000 in bonuses, so therefore now instead of 30,000 being exempt, it's now 70. So the BIR will lose 40,000 pesos in a sense in tax take. Even if you compute that, that's roughly around 5 billion. So it still does not make sense. So that's off the back of the envelope computation.
Okay.
But more importantly, addressing your question,
Yes.
there are other venues, or in fact various bills that we are taking on today, which should generate government more money. Rationalization of fiscal incentives. We give out 148 billion in fiscal incentives or foregone taxes that are given by BOI, by PEZA, by SBMA, by CDC, by BCDA, all these investment promotion agencies, TIEZA, they give it out and we don't know where it really goes.
Okay.
Nobody has oversight of how they give out these incentives. So we actually lose 142 billion. We're not saying that we should cut it, but what we want to rationalize it so that it actually just goes to industries that are really needed and within the roadmap of this economic development that we're looking at over the next 6 years. We cannot give, I don't want to specify where, but we need to take back incentives in certain industries where the beneficiaries are only 3 or 4 big companies. That's not what the incentive is for. Incentive is primarily given for export-related industries. You don't tax them because you want to encourage them so that they can export outside. Because if they're going to be consumed here, what the hell? We got to tax you. So secondly is that it should promote small and medium enterprises. If we're looking at really large-scale enterprises, it could be for power, it could be for things where to make it more attractive. But there are incentives that have been there, Natasha, for 35 years. So you cannot keep giving an incentive for 35 years. Then that only means that if they've been making money for decades, they don't deserve the incentives anymore. So we're looking at around 70 billion there in terms of reduction. We're looking at mining tax, which we're about to take up in the next few weeks. We're looking at customs modernization, where we will improve the tariff and customs code. We're looking at even taxing soda.
So what you're saying is Congress is looking at other ways to generate taxes anyways. There really is no need for the BIR to be this concerned.
We need to find ways because we need to be responsible, because government cannot function without funds. And you have a very ambitious president who wants to take on all these infrastructure activities, all these social program and human capital investment programs like PhilHealth, like the CCT Pantawid Pamilya program, and these things require money.
So you do need the funds. You need to find it somewhere.
Yes, we need to find it somewhere, and it's all over. We just need to be able to cut down on things. But what we're simply saying is we cannot keep pounding on the easy prey. And who are the easy prey? These are salary and wage earners. So we cannot. If you look at the entire tax profile right now, you look at all the individuals who make money. There are 3 kinds of individuals who make money in our economy. Regular wage earners, meaning empleyado. Second are self-employed professionals, abogado, doctor, accountant. Pangatlo is, the third one are self-employed entrepreneurs, sari-sari store, hardware, sole proprietors. When you look at the entire, all these taxpayers, you'll be surprised that 85% of the amount of taxes that we collect from these individuals, 85% come from regular wage earners. Professionals, only 41% pay taxes. From the self-employed entrepreneurs, only 31% of them pay taxes. So it's the individuals who get their pay slip and see their taxes are so and so. They don't even realize it, that you don't even realize what your tax bracket is. You don't even realize what your tax rate is. You just see it.
Absolutely.
That's why when you see congressmen, you see senators, you see all these issues, it really boils your blood.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Yeah, walang iya talaga itong mga congressmen.
I can relate to that. You know, you look at your
Anyway.
you look at your income tax return, and you know, it's you just see a number that could have been in your pocket, I guess.
Yeah, but the point is, the biggest unfairness or biggest criticism of the BIR, even by the World Bank, is that let's go after the big guys. Let's go after the guys who don't pay taxes. We cannot keep squeezing the people who have no choice.
Right.
So that's why even the next step there, Natasha, is we need to be able to restructure the tax brackets under
Right.
which
Right.
all these employees are in, and that's a big step.
And that's actually one of the comments of the World Bank. You know, they're saying once ASEAN kicks in, once 2015 kicks in, the Philippines has to compete on a better footing. You know, there needs to be adjustments in terms of tax brackets. I could ask you also how soon we can expect these tax brackets to be updated.
That's gonna be bloody. That's gonna be bloody because of course, the first attitude is what we did for the 13th month was to simply apply inflation. That's a very technical way of doing it. You have a consumer price index,
Right.
which is computed by the NSO. So you just, multiply that.
Just
Well,
ration.
anyway, there's a factor there. What we were thinking really is to adjust the tax brackets circa 1997 to what it should be today. Meaning, the top tier of our taxes is 500,000 up.
Okay.
Wala nang limit yan. Whether it's 10 million, whether your taxable income is 10 million or 501,000, you pay the same tax rate, which is 32%. It's
Okay.
not fair. Meaning, a middle-level manager in a company
It's paying the same amount.
paying
as
the
a
same
CEO.
amount as the CEO or even the owner of the company. So
Okay.
it's not fair. Secondly is, many of the individuals in that single tax bracket, you have 32%, you have 25%, you have 20%, all based on what the taxable income is. But unfortunately, these brackets as well as the income have not changed since 1997. They've remained stagnant, but the salaries of people in the economy have increased because of inflation. Just to make it really simple. I mean, you've discussed this before. I mean, it's called the bracket creep. I mean, Rappler has talked about it. But in simple terms, a new teacher in 1997 under the old tax code was making 12,980 pesos
Okay.
a month. His bracket, in 1997 was between 15 to 20%, roughly 15% tax rate. A new entrant in DepEd today, teacher level 1, same person, not same person, same item. You go to DepEd, your salary today is 19,280. You are now paying if you put yourself now in the current bracket, you're now at between 20 to 25% tax rate. So the tax brackets, in short, have been outpaced by the increases in nominal salary. But in actuality, a new teacher today and a new teacher in 1997 have the same capacity. 1 sack of rice, 16 kilos of pork, 12 kilos of
Because
chicken.
of inflation.
But because of inflation, it has increased. But unfortunately, the tax system has not been adjusted to inflation. So many of the individuals are now in the upper tax bracket. Mind you, come 2018, everybody is going to be in the 25 and 32%.
Okay.
Lahat, andun na. Because hindi nga na-adjust yung ating tax bracket. So we really need to overhaul that.
Okay.
But that I see it's bloody because it's really going to be costly.
I guess my only question is this really the right time to do it? Obviously, there's a need for it because the law hasn't caught up with the reality because of after the amount of time that has passed. But given that we're still on deficit spending, for instance, and we're behind in terms of rehabilitation for Yolanda, you know, it's a 130 billion peso project to rehabilitate these areas. Is it really the right time right now to push for this?
Yes.
Okay.
I think it's the right time because you have a president who's got deep commitment to the poor. I think that if you look at the entire spectrum, that what we've done, inclusive growth has been the mantra. We've done work well with the poorest of the poor. We've stratified our population into 5 quintiles. The poorest of the poor, the lower fifth, we're addressing that with the CCT program. We're now addressing the second fifth with free PhilHealth and health insurance. with skills training and all, we need to address the third and fourth quintile.
Okay.
And the way to address that is by lowering our taxes to make it really more realistic. We're actually not lowering taxes. What we're doing is we're not even talking about decreasing the tax rate yet. We're just increasing the tax brackets, meaning yung 500,000 ngayon at 32%, that should be increased to 1.128 million, meaning around 1.1 million.
And that's a different
You're now
bracket.
going to be the taxpayer at 32%. But from 500,000 to 1.1 million, you pay at 25%. So, and down the line. So we're not even yet touching the tax rates. So we're not actually lowering taxes. We're just bringing the tax incidence back to 1997.
Okay.
So we're just reinstituting, making whole what has been decimated by
Over
the
time.
inability of the tax system to adjust itself. So it's all part and parcel of an inclusive growth program.
And like you said, you don't. It's not even that significant in terms of amount.
It's actually significant.
I'm sorry. In terms of the reduction of taxes that they'll be receiving because of this law, the 236.
For the bonuses,
For the
it's
bonuses,
not
yes.
going to be significant.
Yes. But we're now talking about the
we're not
tax.
talking. Yes,
Okay,
yes.
okay.
So, but for the adjustment of the brackets, it's going to be
That's going to be
significant.
significant. Okay.
We're looking at a reduction of maybe between 35 to 40%
Okay.
of tax take. That's significant. But we need to be fair. I mean, you know, what's happening today is because we're scared of losing our revenue, we might as well keep pounding on this turnip's pretty dry already. Yung regular wage earners are just coughing out taxes
Yeah.
through their noses.
There's nothing else to
So-
squeeze from them.
So there's nothing else to squeeze. We need to squeeze it from somewhere.
Okay.
And that's what we're saying. And I think that's the challenge that we pose is that, you know, it's significant, but what to do? It's like a family, you know. I always compare it to a family. There's one who's a breadwinner among your kids who keeps helping out everyone, but this kid is
taxes.
not getting married, you know, and the others are still lounging around, getting their bellies rotund and, you know, just gallivanting through town. We cannot keep squeezing the life out of this breadwinner. It's time to do something fair. You can't say that we can't stop the taxes. We can't stop. We can't stop collecting from this kid because the house is going to collapse. But this kid's about to die. So the better thing to do is you better start whipping on the other areas.
That's your metaphor.
That's a metaphor. That's not my family. My mother's gonna kill me. You know.
Are you sure? Is this personal experience?
I'm certainly not the breadwinner of the family.
Okay. Wow. Okay. Good to know that the government employee isn't the breadwinner. Of the
Yeah,
family.
of course, absolutely.
Okay, we have one more question from social media that I think would be interesting. From Harold Malig Gomez, and he says, how about increasing the bonus threshold and overtime, night and holiday pays as tax exempt?
We'll get there.
The
We'll get
expansion
there.
will come later
Yeah.
on. We're starting
what,
first.
What we need to be specific about is, I'm sorry if it's not going to be acceptable to a segment of our people, but if your bonuses are more than 70,000, I'm sorry, you gotta pay taxes. I mean, you gotta cough up taxes for that. Meaning, you're well off. Okay? Meaning, hindi muna. Tulungan muna natin yung mas nangangailangan.
Okay.
I think somebody who makes more than 70,000 can afford at this point in time to pay taxes. But the better approach there is that eventually we're going to lower our income taxes and make it more simple.
Okay.
So that we can be aligned with the other ASEAN countries. Because otherwise, the country is not going to be attractive come ASEAN economic integration.
So step by step, and this is the first step.
Yes.
Okay. And I have to ask you this, now that
No.
we've talked about...
This is about taxes, right?
Well, now that we've talked about taxes, earlier, off air, we were talking about how you just came from the House talking about energy. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I have to ask you, what kind of powers will the House of Representatives give the President?
I think what's important at this point in time, sir, there are two parameters that we're looking at in whatever decision we make. First, it has to be short term. As far as the power is concerned, it cannot, be for a long duration, meaning only for a period during which it is really needed. And then, secondly, it must be curtailed or tailored tailored fit in a manner that will not in any way distress the private sector.
Which is the biggest concern, actually.
It's a big concern because the reason why we passed IPIRA was principally to have a free market, because we don't want government intervening at any point in time, because investor will come in, put in $1.2 billion with they compute a revenue base or a return based on this rate. And then when the potato becomes too hot, the rates go higher, government comes in and offers a lower rate. It really distorts the market. That's why many of them did not want to invest, because they felt like government could come in anytime and disrupt the pricing.
Okay.
So we removed government because of IPIRA. But we've also realized that the private sector will not build unless there's also a certain consumer. And that's why they want to wait, meaning whether they will admit it or not. The anomaly in the private sector or in our energy sector is that the producer does not have a great incentive to produce more than the demand.
Okay.
Because why will you keep doing that? Because if you keep doing that, malulugi ka. But the way energy works is that you always need to have surplus capacity to be able to withstand the various changes that happens, meaning somebody shuts down. So you always need that surplus. So it never happens. So those are the two parameters.
Okay.
But lastly, in terms of the amount, we need to find out and make a determination on how we're going to do it. Are we going to go through the ILP program, meaning mobilizing all the generators?
Right.
Or are we actually going to give government the authority to purchase or lease small generators to be able to offset this period of time? That's where the debate is right now.
Okay. Is that why we are not sure yet when the House will pass the joint resolution, or is there a time limit?
Well, the House is an independent institution, which has rarely turned its back on the president. Sounds like an oxymoron, right?
Exactly.
But I guess the timetable really is that if we are to take on a particular course, there are months that are needed to be able to purchase. If you're going to purchase, if you're going to lease, you have to bid it out. So I don't want to put a timetable, but obviously it has to be something over the next 2 months.
Okay, the next 2 months. Okay, and of course, when we woke up this morning, there was news with the Liberal Party, and as a member of the Liberal Party, I have to ask you this, and the Nationalista Party, and accusations
It's about taxes now, right?
Moving on from taxes,
Okay, all right.
because of the other issues in this
Yeah,
country,
go ahead.
that the Vice President's camp is accusing the Liberal Party and the Nationalista Party of colluding in bringing him down. Well, not him directly, but his spokesperson had said it this morning. Can we get your reaction to this?
Well, I've not discussed the matter with the Liberal Party at this point in time, but I think certainly what we have always been saying from the very first day, and something, if you notice, a great number of us have not really spoken about politics in the last 6 months. Why? Because our philosophy is we just need to keep focusing on the work ahead, and that if we're able to do a good job, whoever the president endorses will become the next president. That's our single-minded philosophy, meaning let's concentrate on doing the things that will have a major impact in terms of the president going out with a bang, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's MRT, whether it's all these other programs that he has, empowering him such that whoever he endorses later on will become president. So issues of collusion, that's really doubtful.
Do you know of any?
Absolutely not. I'm not familiar, but I find that really doubtful because, like I said, if any, you've barely seen anybody talk about what's happening in Makati from any member of the Liberal Party, except maybe for Egay Arice.
Can you tell us if there's been realignment since all of these accusations against the Vice President happened?
Realignment in terms of what?
In the House, in terms of parties or loyalties?
Are you getting me in trouble?
Or alliances? Just asking, you can.
Yeah, answering that will get me into trouble. No, but the party remains very strong.
Okay.
Very strong. It's a party in power. It's the party of the president. The task really is for 2016. That's why we saw the formula for 2013. And we want to repeat that.
Okay.
And what is that formula? Is we don't want to start taking steps towards an electoral victory in 2016, meaning, finding out who the front runner is, etc. What we want to do is to make sure that the president becomes successful. And when he does, we feel like that his endorsement power will be so strong, just like 2013.
Okay, so no realignments you want to tell us so far?
None. If there's going to be any realignment, the party's just getting bigger.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much for spending your time with us and for answering a wide range of questions from tax to politics. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, ma'am.
We've been talking to Congressman Mira Kimbo about how raising tax exemption caps could empower the Filipino employee, among other topics. I'm Natasha Gutierrez. Thank you for watching.